Good evening and a very warm welcome to another very precious evening of teachings by Venerable Lhakdor. For those of us who are based in Delhi, these are challenging times, and so maybe sort of dedicate the merit gained from these teachings to the millions and millions of people around the world who are struggling and suffering with the COVID virus in particular, and the human predicament in general. And things are pretty bad in Delhi at this time. We've had one of our colleagues come down with COVID, and another one sort of rush home to her family, two members of which who are unwell. So thank you, Geshe Lhakdor, in these very challenging times. Your teachings bring us great comfort, and hopefully we will prove worthy of them and be able to imbibe the wisdom to impact our deepest reflexive responses. So it's over to you, Dr. Lhakdor. We're very grateful and deeply blessed that you are with us here today.
Let me start with a prayer from Shantideva, where it says, may all those who are sick in this world be quickly freed, and may in the future sickness never exist in the world. This is, of course, a powerful prayer, but what is even more important is to learn from every difficulties or challenging situations. As Shantideva again has said in his text, that suffering is introduction to happiness. We normally are unable to appreciate when things are good, but we miss them when things are difficult and challenging. This is, I think, a strange human nature. So from this, what we really need to learn is be happy with each and every moment. You may be surrounded by a lot of difficulties and problems, but still there are many reasons to be happy and to be joyful. And it is this sort of mental joyfulness and happiness which can really cure many illnesses and which can drive away fear, especially many of the unfounded fears, which are normally based on ignorance of many types. During one of my earlier talks, I mentioned clearly that for every problem, there is a short-term solution and long-term solution. The short-term solution these days, as you know well, is to maintain certain discipline of doing all the things that you're asked to do and not to do those things which you're asked not to do. Unfortunately, I can clearly see many people are not at all paying attention to those things which needs to be done. Not only in India, but many countries, people are refusing to put on the mask, saying that this is my body, which I think is quite stupid and arrogance. Because yes, it is your body, but you also need to protect and think about others also. Freedom does not mean that you can do whatever you like. You need to enjoy that freedom within the human society. So make sure that your freedom does not obstruct others' freedom and hinders others' freedom. Therefore, whether you're a believer or not a believer, It's really, really important not to just think about yourself alone, but also to think about others' well-being. That I think is very, very important. And that is in Buddhism is the root of foundational practice. We call it altruism or bodhicitta and things like that. From such challenging experiences, it becomes more and more clear that the selfishness that we all have does not lead anywhere, but only bring more and more problem and torture. Be it greed for material accumulation, be it the greed for name and fame. And because of all this short-sighted thinking and misconception of the reality, we are suffering in many cases unnecessarily, meaning that there are, of course, there are sufferings, but many of these sufferings can be avoided. And especially many of these sufferings coming from outside can be avoided. And the sufferings that is rooted in your mind can also be reduced. So it is not that there is no method at all, but we hardly pay any attention to these inner qualities which are really the long-term solutions for any problem. So what we need is love and care and compassion to everybody. Imagine if you have a real leader who is really compassionate, loving, altruistic. I think the situation of the COVID experience will also be much, much different than what we are experiencing today. But even this kind of unfortunate situation, if you politicize it, as is done in many countries, unfortunately, and playing with the lives of many people, very, very unfortunate. So therefore, some people are very difficult to change, but we need to know that this is not the solution for you or for others. So this is difficult time, but also a great time for learning, for experience. Because when you personally see and experience these difficulties, then that experience really becomes a life-changing experience. The great instructions that you receive from your teachers may sound good, may look reasonable, but it is difficult for you to make an impact in your mind unless you are personally bothered by those sufferings and problems. So the real movers and shakers are the personal tragedies and experiences that you have. Therefore, Shantideva said, suffering is the introduction to happiness. Only then, hopefully, you can make a move. So see everything from a positive aspect and make the best use of it and encourage each other, give hope. And life that we have obtained is very, very precious life. Even one moment is very, very important. Even 1 hour, of course, is very, very important. So use each of the time, moment by moment, properly, meaningfully, so that you don't have to regret later on. With life's actual situation, it is becoming more and more clear that the ordinary kind of education or academic knowledge that we get in universities and schools hardly teach much about living a real life. It is becoming more and more clear that when we encounter such difficulties, problems, your famous degrees, piece of papers doesn't really come to help you. What will really come to help you is if you have these inner qualities of not just thinking about oneself alone, but also thinking about others. The more you think about others, the more you take steps to help others, the less you will have fear, the less you will be worrying. Another big problem under such situation is that in addition to the pandemic or any difficulty, we have this strong self-grasping and self-cherishing, due to which you always have this fear and doubt, what will happen to me? You have this fear I, me, mine, as I earlier said, perhaps, that in one of the mind training texts clearly explains that our self-grasping is so much that when there is a tragedy, the first thing that comes in our mind is the tragedy will first fall on my head. For example, if there is a lightning, you might cover your head with your hand, thinking that the lightning will first of all strike on your head. And then not necessary, but this is how you feel. So therefore, your thinking will make a huge difference. The more you think about others, the less you will have fear and doubt. And by helping others, even if you die, I'm not saying that don't take precaution. You take precaution, do everything. But otherwise, when you die, somehow we have to die. And there is, in general, even without the COVID, there is no guarantee that we will see tomorrow. That's life. So understand this life from a bigger perspective. And if you look at the life itself, much of the suffering that we get is because of the very nature of the body. And much of the so-called peace and happiness that we get, I mean, I'm talking in ordinary terms, that primarily comes from outside. So if you look at the nature of the body itself, it's really, really fragile. It's born to collapse, born to die, right? Even if you live 100 years, that's it, that is the length. So your life has been projected in such a way that there is a limited period, limited time. And then in addition to that natural reality, your manner of living, your manner of thinking, the way you eat food, all this contributes to how long you live or how soon you are going to disappear. So therefore, even during this 100 years or so, how much you will fare well is very much dependent upon your attitude, your thinking, and how you really practice. So therefore, it is important that it's not only this COVID, but there are so many other problems, diseases in one's life. But unless, when you confront all these diverse, problems, including illnesses within and obstructions and hindrances from outside, all this can be faced with a proper frame of mind. And especially once you understand all of these experiences like a dream, without much clinging, and then you will be in a much better position not to be tossed around by these upheavals. I think that's extremely, extremely important, because at the end of the day, when you encounter these difficult situations, then you will have to face that. Even if you have some people, of course, don't have friends, relatives, not many friends, relatives. Some have many, but still, when you actually encounter your own problem, it is you who will have to experience this. So you need to take very good care of yourself. And I sometimes play with this word, when two friends meet and then they part, then they say bye, goodbye, bye, take care, right? Nobody says bye, I will take care of you. So just we don't have to go to a very profound teaching. This is what we say in our daily life, in our exchanges. Bye, take care, you see. So one has to take very good care of oneself. When you take very good care of yourself, you will be in a much better position to take care of others. So therefore, the Buddhist teachings, they say, taking care of oneself is taking care of others. Taking care of others is taking care of yourself. And that's why His Holiness, the Dalai Lama says, if you want to be selfish, be wisely selfish. Our ordinary way of selfishness is thinking just about oneself, which is stupid. Because in the end, it doesn't help you or help others. But if you be wisely selfish, meaning you take more care of others, your individual, purposes will be taken care of. So therefore, we are reading these precious texts by Atisha, the discussion between Atisha and Domtompa, who were like great altruistic bodhisattvas. And we are just kind of galloping through this very, very fine text. And so today we are reading the 9th chapter, which is called something like Pure Song. The title is something like Pure Song. So in this chapter, it talks about again, the discussion that has taken place between Atisha and Domtemba. And Domtemba asks us a question as usual to Atisha by saying that, in the previous dialogue, which means we already read the previous chapter, where Atisha instructs Domtemba and others that you should become rich, not by the material wealth, but the wealth of the Aryas. We read about that earlier. So now here Domtemba asks him a question by saying that you said that you should survive or nourish yourself by the wealth of the superior beings or Aryas. So at what kind of place we should practice this seven wealth? And when we practice this seven precious wealth, distractions are bound to come. So what kind of distractions will be there from which we should avoid? So as a response to this, Atisha says that the distraction comes in different places. The distraction may come in the garden where you stroll. It may come in the big city. So it will come in all those places where there's a lot of crowd, a lot of commotion, a lot of hustle and bustle. And because when you are in that crowd, then not only you are distracted by those crowd, those people, but you also are then instigated to engage in all kind of talking, which will then become idle gossip, idle chatting. And in this way, you will be carried by this evil force of crowd, evil force of commotion. So therefore, wherever you stay, it is important that you should not be carried away by the clinging to self-grasping, as I already mentioned, the clinging to self-grasping. You should forcibly cut the clinging to self-grasping and do not see the experiences of the samsara as something wonderful, something good, as we normally say, this was great, this was wonderful, just like small kids, playing around and then praising each other. This is ordinary mundane way. But if you see things from a bigger perspective, wider perspective, then there is nothing much to appreciate in this ordinary mundane worldly activities, because at the end, whatever you do will be a kind of deception, due to the evil forces. So therefore, it is important to live a life, to engage in a practice so that you are able to obtain a secure place for your next life. And if you don't do that, then he says, it is like constructing a house near the water, near the running water. And he says you might construct a 3-story building, but if the foundation is near the bed of the river, then the foundation will be slowly eroded by that running water. But being oblivious to that, to the state of the foundation, if you constructed a 3-story and then paint it colorfully and then put on all the banners and canopies and so forth, he says it doesn't make any sense, because the very foundation is destroyed by the running water, and very soon the whole thing will collapse. And this is something we see in our big cities all the time. In places where there's flood and things like that, we see this. Again, those collapsing of houses, etc., happen again because when it is constructed, it is not thought properly, it is not planned properly. People don't care about life. People just use money and do all kind of things. That's why unnecessarily again we die. So this is again a wonderful example. And he gives second example by saying that without seeing whether the pot that you have has a leaky bottom, or whether it's a proper bottom or not, without seeing that if you put something in the pot And then if that pot is a leaky pot, then even if you fill the whole pot with something, then very soon it will leak down. Nothing will stay in that pot. So therefore, it is important for us, number one, to know that today we have found this very difficult to find precious human life. And we also have this wonderful opportunity to receive the three vows of the Pratimoksha, the individual liberation vow, Bodhisattva vow, and Tantric vow, and so forth. So therefore, and even though you have obtained this very precious human life and got the time to receive these vows, but as we already discussed, how long we are going to live, it is not sure. And don't say there is a lot of time. And Atisha says there is not much time. And I think I told you earlier that there was a Tibetan teacher who asked his students, are you studying? He said, yes, sir, I am studying. Then the teacher said, don't tell lie. When do you study? Because I saw you sleeping the whole night, which we all do. And then in the day, you remaining distracted here and there. Then there was other teacher who says that in the day also, you sleep sometimes, you spend a lot of time eating and then washing and going for a walk and things like that. So when do you really find time to practice? We need to be very honest with ourselves, you see. Even in terms of meditation, we do talk so much about meditation, but how much we are meditating every day? Maybe 5, even if we say 5 minutes every day, that's a big decision. Normally we are unable to do that, unfortunately. So that is our plight. Number one, we don't have much time. And the time also, when you're asked to do some spiritual practice, then normally the answer is, I have no time. And you have time for every other thing, except for the most important thing. This is our tendency. This is our interest, you see. So what are we going to get, you see? So it's really, really important to, remind oneself and make a decision to do something. And then when you really start doing something, I think we'll all be able to see the benefit of it for yourself and for others also, right? So therefore, it is important to realize that you've obtained this precious human life, but this precious human life is very unreliable. When will it disappear? Nobody knows. There's not much time. And when your life ceases, then all the material accumulations that you have done over the years, not even a needle you can take with you, just as you came into this world naked, knowing nobody. Worse than that, when you leave this world, even your body, you have to leave behind. You can't take with you. When you came into this world, at least you came with this body. But when you go, even this body, you have to take, you can't take it with you. Sometimes I jokingly tell people that when you die, there is a tight security check. They'll tell you to leave your body behind because they are suspicious that you might be taking something with you, hiding something in your body. So it almost looks like that, right? So that is our state. But that is not end of your story. At least from the Buddhist perspective, we say that even if you leave the body behind, but the mind goes. And though there is no reason that the mind should come to an end. Just like sleeping, when you sleep, your body is almost lifeless, but mind actually becomes more active. And that's why you get all these dreams of, going to America, meeting your brothers, sisters, eating a delicious lunch and things like that. So that all this clearly indicates the possibilities of mind getting separated from the body. The more you go to the subtle level of mind, the more you will get free. And that's why when you're asked to do meditation or any spiritual practice, it must be done by the mind, not by the 5 or 6 senses, not by the 5 senses, or not so much by the body. This is crucial, because if you involve your mind, especially if you're able to involve the subtlemost mind, the mental consciousness, and especially the subtle mind, and leave a positive imprint on that subtle mind, then it is this subtle mind which goes to the next life, not the grosser levels of the mind, like eye consciousness and so forth. So therefore, it's really, really important to know how to practice. Okay? So in this way, when you finally die, your consciousness goes, which means you go to the next world, next life, and you have to go through the intermediate state being. And at that time, nobody will accompany with you. Probably you don't have a guide. When we are alive, we even if you don't know, then know the place, you can, ask people where to go, what is the place, show you the map and things like that. But in that travel, whatever positive deeds you have done, that is your guide, that's your friend, that is your relative, that is your wealth, everything. Apart from that, you don't have a human friend that will guide you and take around and put you in a nice hotel and give you breakfast, dinner, lunch, things like that. No. And your money and everything, including the plastic card, it says there's no meaning, no use at all. Okay. And then all your so-called relatives and friends, they will just lament and cry after you. None of them will be able to accompany you. And they are crying and lamenting and being sorrowful is of no help to you at all. Instead, it will harm you. It might disturb your mind also. But we ordinary human beings have this habit of doing all the useless things and not doing the useful things. Useful thing is when we are alive together, we should be nice to each other, which we fail to do. But when somebody dies, then we shed our crocodile tears. ये चलता है, ये खेल चलता रहता है. This is the human way of doing things, you see. So therefore, what the Buddhist teaching is saying is, do those things which is really, really beneficial to you and beneficial to others. And don't do those things which is not beneficial to you and not beneficial to others, right? So therefore, I think it was Nagarjuna who in his letter to the friend says, when you do something bad, negative, in other words, there are three ways of using the mind. One, whatever the mind does will be like writing on the earth, on the ground. Or it may be like writing on water. Or it may be a carving on a stone. So Nagarjuna says, when it comes to doing good things, the virtuous practices, then it should be like a carving on the stone, not a drawing on ground or not drawing on water. Because even if the stone breaks, the carving will still be there. So such strong imprint should be there when it comes to doing positive practices. And if you're not able to do, at least it should be something like drawing on ground to start with, but not like drawing on water. When it comes to doing bad things, it should be like drawing on water. Meaning, for example, if you had a disagreement with somebody and had heated argument and exchanges, then after that, don't just keep that in your mind. It should be just like drawing on water. When you draw something on water, as soon as you finish drawing, it's no result is there. Nothing can be seen. It immediately disappears. So similarly, negative deeds should not be remembered. Positive deeds should be remembered, should make a strong impact on one's mind. So therefore, do those things which is useful and not those things which is not useful. It is the ordinary way of life that when somebody dies for a few weeks or maximum few months, the so-called relatives will cry and yell and feel sorry and change the clothes and things like that. But then after that, they will forget, and then again, ha, he, who, and laughing, smiling, and then going after a new boyfriend, new girlfriend, I mean, this is a human way. So we don't do much that is really, really useful, and especially in today's world, because of our own way of life and attitude, when something doesn't work, then we tend to blame the other person, not oneself. For example, in terms of marriage, if you're not happy with one particular wife or husband, you will say, this wife didn't work, this husband didn't work, so I change, divorce. And then get a new wife, new husband, and thinking that this one will definitely work. And you never point the mistake to yourself. It's the problem of the other, the husband or the wife. So you change it. The second wife or husband also doesn't work. Then again, you will say, oh, I made a mistake. This one is also not the right for me. So I'll do the third marriage. That will definitely work for me. So this is, I'm not just fabricating it. This is actually happening in our society. You see? You just keep on changing your husband, keep on changing your wife, keep on changing your cars, keep on changing your houses, and thinking that from that my happiness will come. But you yourself never change. So the bitter truth is, unless you change yourself, just changing the external facilities will not work. Like, for example, I give you a small, very small example. Like, for example, using heavy cosmetics on your face. Right? I'm not saying this is not good, you can't do, I'm nobody to tell you, but just giving you an example, trying to convince you to get a facelift, to look nice, you put, red, white, whatever, cosmetics on your face. But this is only decorating the appearance, the external. What is important is the internal beauty, not the external beauty. And particularly when that external beauty is not the real beauty, but cosmetic beauty, then that's not helpful. So therefore, one of the main teaching in Buddhism is bridge the gap between appearance and reality. Appearances are deceptive. And we are trying to deceive other people more by just changing the external look, not changing the internal qualities. Right? So what is really, really important is, I'm not against anybody, doing a makeup or anything like that. That's okay, that's fine. But what I'm saying is the real beauty has to be the internal beauty. Meaning that, now when I say this, you might say, oh, this Geshe is stupid. Who will see the internal beauty? Right? Internal beauty is seen even through your face. For example, if you are really, really genuinely compassionate and loving, your face will radiate, right? And if you mentally inside, if you're poor and not happy and have a lot of depression and anger and jealousy, doesn't matter. You put very heavy cosmetics on your face, but it will not look delightful. There will be no proper smile on your face, you see. But and I quote from the Buddha's own teaching. The Buddha, in one of his sutra, he says that if you are really calm and peaceful internally, then there will be proper flow of the wind energy, thereby the proper flow of blood, proper circulation, blood circulation, meaning that the blood will go to all parts of your body, including your face, and thus the face will look radiant. I remember very well, maybe probably with cold weather, I don't know, but otherwise in Tibet, we used to have many people, especially the girls, with rubby cheeks, red cheek, without any anointment, maybe with the weather, but it could also be because of peaceful situation in those days, you see. So therefore, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, if you look at his face, he doesn't use any cosmetics, but his is the most handsome, most beautiful because of the smile, the radiance that comes from internal qualities. So this kind of ornaments, they are not expensive. If you cultivate it, you don't have to buy all those extra cosmetics from the market. No thieves can steal it. No robbers can rob it. then you have what we call as the natural beauty, internal beauty that will also produce the external beauty. That's very, very important. And when you have this internal beauty, not only you will attract people, but even the dogs and other animals, they sense it and then they come close to you. And when you don't have this internal beauties, doesn't matter, you try to be nice with some animals, they sense it. Again, you are not genuinely, good person, then they will just quickly try to get the food and run away. We have all seen this, right? So uh, therefore, what Atisha was saying is that all this material external accumulations in the form of wealth, in the form of name, in the form of fame, relatives, at the end of the day, none of them will be useful to you. So what is useful is these internal qualities which you must cultivate. And there, in order to do that, you should try to find a place of isolation. See, social distancing, kind of social distancing. This is a, frequently coming teaching saying that distance yourself. Not only the COVID-19, but distance yourself from the crowd, from negative thoughts. Negative thoughts are the most dangerous pandemic, right? Bad friends are the real pandemic. So distance. I am not saying that you lose your compassion towards them, but having compassion doesn't mean that you should also be affected by the influence of the wrongdoings of those bad friends. So it's important always to maintain a distance, especially when you have not reached that spiritual, elevation or level where you cannot be harmed by the surrounding, right? And in order to do that, you need to see this human life as impermanent and fragile, and there is not much time. So use time to get the meaning out of this human life. And through that, we try to destroy the poisonous negative emotions. And the best isolation is not just physical isolation, but mental isolation. Mental isolation. In the case of the Bodhisattvas, they practice mental isolation. And he further gives an example by saying these evil forces, they are very cunning. The evil forces are very cunning. They are very opportunistic. And they come in many forms. They come in the garb of a religious practitioner. For example, you will see so-called religious practitioner who looks like a religious person, but who will be actually deceived through his own posturing as a religious person, not doing the practice. And in the case of a so-called disciplined person, he is also deceived because again, he has this arrogance, conceit to become a disciplined person. You might say, I'm a religious practitioner. I am a person practicing discipline. Again, those practices that you do will become a source of further generation of your conceit and arrogance. And if you are a scholar or learned person, again, you will get puffed up with that scholarship. And if you are a gentle person, good person, again, you might get puffed up by saying that I'm a especially lucky person, right? Lucky person. And those people who are more interested in distraction, they can be easily duped and easily cheated by songs and dances. There are people who are very fond of attending all kinds of songs and dances. So they are cheated in this way. The youths, during the youthful life, or the youths, they are deceived by their youthfulness, by their young look. And then there are others who are deceived by ornaments. We do see people who are so fond of ornamenting themselves. So what he's saying is there are so many ways of being deceived by these evil forces. So you need to be very, very careful. even in terms of practice, he says, for example, if you are somebody who is doing concentration, then you might think about listening to the teaching or doing something else. You're not being able to concentrate. Again, you are distracted. And when your listening and contemplation is seemingly quite successful, then you will not continue with it. Instead, you will say, meditation is better. What will you meditate without any study, without any scholarship, right? So without going further, he gives a wonderful example by saying, for example, if there is a person who climbs a tree, and while climbing the tree, he has to alternately with his two hands hold the branches, and without letting the one hand holding the next branch, if you let the other hand also go down, then that means you will fall down, you will break your bone and so forth. So we are like that. We are like that. We are not able to do anything properly. So therefore, whatever religious practices you are doing, do not start anything if you are unable to achieve success in the preceding practices. So we are good in starting so many things, and especially in modern day time, people are so fond of talking about, oh, I have so much work, I have this project, that project, this project, that project, not accomplishing anything properly. And I have this, in my own case, I have this experience, you see. You're tempted to do so many things. People ask you to do so many things, and you say yes, 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 and you're not good in anything. Right? So it's important to do something which is meaningful and which is long-lasting, beneficial to others. So since we have not actualized that secure place, it's important to cultivate the counter forces against the negative deeds. And in order to do that, you need to have extensive study, extensive hearing. Otherwise, you will have no idea what to do. And therefore, listening is really like the lamp that dispels the darkness of ignorance. It is by listening that you will know the Dharma. It's by listening that you will be freed from sinful deeds. And it's by listening you will be able to give up many meaningless activities. In life is very serious. He says life is very serious. There will be sickness, there will be death, there will be crying, there will be howling, there will be mental agitation, there will be commotion. So in those situations, what you need is not just follow the other worldly beings, but you need to train your mind. You need to do meditate. Otherwise, if you look at somebody who is crying, you feel like crying. if others are laughing, you feel like laughing, and you just imitate others, and you have no practice from your side, right? So therefore, don't just keep on imitating. Although in today's world, whoever is a good imitator is called a scholar. All worldly activities are imitations, and whoever does the best imitation is called a scholar, right? Even in terms of research, if you copy from one book, it is plagiarism. If you copy from many books, research, right? So there are many interesting things, right? So therefore, it is important to train one's mind. So if you undertake serious meditation and training of the mind, And then you will have a clear sight of the way the worldly people lives. And then without accompanying these worldly beings, you will be able to achieve nirvana or transcend the worldly life. And what is most important for us to know is that whoever is born will die. Whatever comes together will be separated. Whatever you have accumulated will be lost, and everything will be taken by the death, the Lord of the death. And when you die, nothing will accompany you. So therefore, realizing this, right now you take refuge in the triple gem, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and think about the features of the cycle of existence, and meditate in the place of solitude. And do not waste your time in idle gossip. So instead, think about the faults of the samsara and develop conviction in the infallibility of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Take refuge and make supplications to them and purify all the negative deeds that you have done. And also, instead of engaging in gossip, recite mantras, names of the Buddha, and the formulas for taking refuge, formulas for cultivation of bodhicitta. So this is what he has advised in response to what Domtoba has requested. Then from henceforth he sings a song of the view. That's why this title is called The Pure Song, where he primarily says that even though so many things appears to our mind, but if you try to trace out the source of all those things that appears, what is the original source? You will not be able to trace it. And if you also try to find out where they all vanished, what is the ultimate course where they will all disappear, you will not be able to point. So when you look towards the object, nothing traceable. Although the object, from the side of the object, there is nothing that is traceable, but you are cheated and deceived by the appearances of these objects. And instead of looking towards the object, if you look towards yourself, then also you will find that you have also cheated yourself. So you are doubly cheated, one by the object and the second by your own manner of thinking, perceiving what is not truly existent as truly existent. So therefore it is important to develop this non-dualistic perception and don't continue to remain in that mistaken state. Even though the conventional world looks beautiful, like a rainbow, but if you analyze, you will find nothing. What is therefore important is that you should meditate in general and especially on the profound law of causality. And all this you should do for the purpose of benefiting your parents, the parent sentient beings. And it is for the benefit of parent sentient beings that Atisha says that in my own case, it is for the benefit of sentient beings, parent sentient beings, that I first engage in listening. then engaged in contemplation, then engaged in meditation. And all these three things I've done together. When I have hearing, there was contemplation and meditation. When I did contemplation, there is listening and meditation. When I did the meditation, there was listening and contemplation. So my practice was not lopsided, not biased. All these three, sometimes people translate these three processes as three Buddhist ways of education. Education of listening, education of thinking, and education of meditation. I think it's very, because in Hindi we translate it shiksha, shiksha, training, three trainings or shiksha. So I think it's a good way of translating also. So therefore, he says, because I did practice in this way, so today I'm so much in a blissful state, so much so that I feel like dancing, singing, you see. When internally you have all these wonderful, amazing qualities and the great satisfaction of having benefited so many people, having brought smile on the face of so many people, you are naturally overjoyed, right? I mean, take the example of Milarepa. He escaped from the crowd, remained in isolation with meager, hardly any facilities there, but he developed all the inner qualities, and then as a result, this 100,000 songs of Milarepa came into being. 100,000 songs. It's not that he sat down with a pen and paper and started writing, but the songs naturally came. Once you are able to see, as the great Tibetan teacher Kongtang Tempe Tobe, he says that when you are able to see everything that appears to you as a wonderful metaphor, as a wonderful example, and such a teacher has no shortage of instruction. The instruction comes from the nature. The poetry comes from the nature, internal experiences. So something like this he is saying here, Atisha also. Therefore, this teaching is called the pure song. Okay? And then he further says that when it comes to understanding the view, it's really, really important to focus and analyze and make sure that you do not fall into one of the extremes, the extreme of nihilism and the extreme of permanence. And then Atisha, having taught like this, Domdamba has this wonderful example, a wonderful process of summarizing the teaching. In every occasion, Domdamba would finally say, Atisha, you had given such a wonderful teaching, so easy to understand. But if I summarize it, then this is what I got. So these are the lines that we are reading. So he finally says, if I summarize what you taught today, you basically said, give up all commotions and live in isolation, discard words of gossip, and always restrain your speech. So this is the summary and conclusion of chapter 9, which is called the Pure Spiritual Song. Okay, so we stop here today. If anybody has any questions, please ask.
The first question, I see one on my screen, is from Amita. Does Buddhism believe in destiny? Is it all preordained? Life, death? I mean, before Lakshmana answers this, we would welcome you asking your questions in person, but if you're shy or hesitant, feel free to post them on chat, and I will ask them for you. Lakshmana, that's Amita Joseph's question.
Yeah. I mean, when you ask these questions with English words, sometimes you need to be very clear about the meaning of that word destiny. But destiny means something that like something like your fate being decided then we don't believe that in Buddhism. Yes, what you are going to experience is very much related to the karma that you have accumulated in the past. But that does not mean to say that for your fate is forever sealed. That's why we are studying, to change things. That's why we are talking about listening and studying and meditating, so that you can change, you can purify many of the negative deeds that you've done, right? So therefore, it is here, what is really important here is to understand that even when we use the word karma, it has no fatalistic notion. It does not mean that your fate has been decided. It's not like that. Karma actually means action. So action and reaction. You can change that karma, right? So therefore, we don't believe in fate, where you're already at the mercy of somebody who decided. Okay.
Is there another question?
No.
Yes, Geshe-la,
Hmm.
we have a question from our listeners in YouTube, from our Russian listeners in YouTube. Actually, I have three questions there. The first one is how to practice if the situation requires us to be distracted by various activities like work, visits, communication with many people. Can you please explain what it is like to go on a retreat in your mind?
Yeah, it's really like asking if you like playing a musical instrument, and then, if you say, oh, how can I play the music because I have a lot of work and visitors and this and that, I'm pretty sure that if you are somebody who's really, really interested in music, and then somehow you will find the time. So likewise, if you are genuinely interested in spiritual practice, you will find time, and you will have to find time if you see it important. Yes, I understand that you have to live, you have to earn, bread, and but that doesn't mean that you have no free time at all, right? In the mornings, in the evenings, on the weekend days, and sometimes you can also go for 1 month holiday or 2 weeks holiday. Things, there are many. Where there is will, there is a way. So the question is, how important you see your spiritual practice. If you see your spiritual practice very, very important, I'm 100% sure you will find time. And in fact, this very longing to find time will help you do great practice. Because sometimes when you do some practice as a usual thing, then you will be doing your prayer and this and that, it becomes a daily routine, and you may not be doing it with great interest and wholeheartedness. But if you're genuinely interested and not having some difficulty in finding time, then whenever you find time, you will go for that. You will be able to do your meditation, you will be able to do your practice, and it will be a very rigorous and effective one. So the most important thing is you should have this willingness to do, and the willingness to do has to come not because somebody has told you to do, but you should yourself see the importance of that. Okay.
I think there was a follow-up question. You had 3 questions.
Yes, thank you very much, Geshe-la. Yeah, thank you very much, Rajiv. And the next question is, how do you meditate in order to cultivate non-dual perception?
The non-dual perception basically means seeing the reality, in terms of emptiness. It is just seeing the reality. For example, impermanence. How do you see impermanence? It's just the seeing reality, right? That cups are breaking, people are dying, houses are collapsing, things are changing. We see all this. So similarly, in the case of emptiness, also when you analyze and find there is nothing that has independent objective existence, but still things exist. So from there, you will be able to come to understand that there is this emptiness, free from the dualistic appearance. Dualistic means seeing things as having inherent independent existence, or sometimes dualistic appearance also means when you are meditating on emptiness, then the conventional reality also comes in the mind. That is, I think, duality. So what you need to do is just focus on shunyata and not let this obstructions of conventional reality, etc., come in your mind. So the best example is, best answer is given by Buddha himself, where in one of his sutra he says, what do you mean by meditating? How it looks like when you meditate on emptiness? Then the Buddha answered by saying, meditating on emptiness is like meditating on space. How do you think about space? Thinking about space means a state which is free from obstruction. So similarly, when you think about emptiness, you are thinking about something that is free from independent existence. So the emptiness means mere negation of the object of independent, the object of independent existence. So mere absence of the object of negation, which is independent existence. Nothing is affirmed, nothing is refuted. Seeing the reality as it is, just like water placed in water. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much, Geshe. Yeah, and we have the third question. What does it mean that everything is of one taste? How to understand it and how to realize it?
Yeah, one taste means that this nature of emptiness, for everybody, the nature of emptiness is same, because that's the ultimate truth. So that is called one taste. So it means that it is not that I find emptiness in one way and you will find emptiness in a different way. If you do that, then it means either you have not understood or I have not understood. Because the reality is reality. Just like, for example, just like water. Water is water for everybody, right? Right, everybody. Water is water for everybody. Doesn't matter, you call it by different languages, but water is water. So I think it's one taste means something like that.
We have 4 raised hands. So I will request from left to right. Jackie, if you will unmute and ask your question, please.
Hello, thank you for your teaching. I was wondering, when you spoke about the 3 different ways of using your mind, and you mentioned doing bad things is like drawing on water, but at some point you should also confess your wrong deeds and apply the antidote. So what is the fine line between letting things go and confessing and asking, if you've done something wrong, do you just let it go, like the water, or do you also confess and promise not to do it again? Like, how quickly do you let it go?
Yeah, letting go. That's why when we talk about meditation on emptiness, we are talking about letting go, not grasping, letting go, right? Much of the problem that we are experiencing today is because of obsession, clinging, grasping, not letting go. That's why when we teach about emptiness and so forth, we give this example of seeing the life and its experiences like a dream, like an illusion, like a mirage, right? So therefore, I mean, this is very, very useful. And in fact, I was reading a text this morning by Aryadeva, 400 verses, and also a commentary by someone else. So there the commentator said that the meditating on impermanence, for example, is so useful, because when you, through this meditation on impermanence, when you see the changes that is taking so quickly and so fast, then even if you're having a very bad experience like the present COVID experience, when you think about impermanence, it's going all the time. It's not staying. Very nature of this, anything that is conditioned, impermanent, is going. You see, it's going. And Buddha tells group of people requested Buddha to give a teaching. And so before giving the teaching, he tells one person to go to the nearby river and bathe in that river 3 times and come back. And then he, went into this river and bathed 3 times and came to the Buddha. And then the Buddha said, did you bathe yourself 3 times in the same river or different river? And then he answered by saying, I bathed in the same river. Then Buddha said, no, you have not understood. You bathed in different river, because the first river where you bathed, as soon as you came out, the water is already gone. Likewise the second, likewise the third, you see. So then you don't start thinking that, oh, this pandemic will be there forever, it's going to kill everybody, that kind of attitude will not be there. And similarly, even if you have a wonderful, good experience, don't develop too much attachment. That is also going to go, right? Okay.
Susan, please unmute and ask a question.
Thank you, Geshe. Thank you, Rajiv. Geshe, you mentioned leaving a positive imprint on the subtle mind, because this is the aspect of mind that persists. So do you have a particular, is there a means that we should be using to do this? Or is it more about contemplation on compassion, for example, or shunyata?
Whatever. Compassion, loving kindness, bodhicitta, emptiness, whatever. What you need to do is just use the mind, mental consciousness, not the sense consciousness, right? Use as much as possible. That's why we are always talking about concentration. Concentrate, use your mind. The more you get habituated with the concentration, the more you will be able to go deeper into the subtle level of the mind. And thereby you will be able to leave that habit or leave that imprint on that subtle mind. In other words, you are making this subtle mind get habituated with this positive ways of life. And it is this mind with that habit which goes to the next life and which is going to help you. So leaving imprint doesn't really mean that the mind is there and on the top of this mind, you leave something, a cup or a paper, not like that. Leaving imprint basically means making that mind itself pick up that habit of doing good things, right? So that habit goes to the next world, next life. Okay.
Tashidalit Geshe, thank you very much. My question is, where is the border between the intelligent selfishness and stupid ordinary selfishness? But where is its border?
What? Border, acha, border. Ordinary selfishness means thinking just about yourself and completely neglecting others. It's not saying you don't take care of yourself, you must take care of yourself. But ordinary selfishness means thinking just about yourself and completely ignoring others' needs. That is ordinary selfishness. So therefore, instead of this selfishness, of course, you take care of yourself, but don't ignore the needs of others. Take care of their needs also. Take responsibility in helping them also. So that way of taking more responsibility of others' well-being is called the selfish way of being selfish, the wise way of being selfish, meaning that actually you are taking about the responsibility of others, thinking about others, but in the long term, you will be the beneficiary. So that's the wise way of being selfish. Okay? Yes.
Geshe, Tashidalit, Geshe, I just had some very small question. Just wanted to know if you know of any, I'm sure you know of any simple read on Buddhism, because it just started Buddhism, and any suggestion would be appreciated. Thanks.
To what?
On love and compassion, Buddhism, love and compassion to start with.
To start with, I think you should start with what the Buddha said. The Buddha said, Buddha summarizes all his teachings by saying, do not do anything that is negative. Do everything that is positive. Completely transform your mind. This is my teaching. So Buddha summarizes his whole teaching in these 4 lines. So do not do anything that is negative, means don't do anything that is going to directly, indirectly harm others. And do everything that is positive, means do those things which is going to help others directly, indirectly. Now to do that, you need some training, some practice. Therefore, the 3rd line says completely transform your mind. You cannot just say and go out, I'm going to become good from tomorrow onwards. No, you'll not become good like that. You know, to do that, you need to train your mind. So therefore, the 3rd line says completely transform your mind. And this is my teaching. So meaning that judge your mind, and by judging your mind, as I mentioned earlier, you'll find a lot of negative traits, and you will not be able to remove all these negative traits at one go. So therefore, you should see out of these many negative habits, see or identify those which have a predominant presence, which is really going to harm you. So try to reduce that, reduce the intensity of those negative emotions. So this is the way to change your mind. Okay.
Lakshla, I think she was also asking for a recommendation of some introductory books on compassion and the Buddha's teachings. And I mean, you're the best judge, but what came up for me was, 2 wonderful books by His Holiness, published by, I think, HarperCollins, available on Amazon. One is called The 4 Noble Truths, and the other is called The Power of Compassion. And Lakdor has done a wonderful, collection of books, and I have it right here in front of me. It's called Enlightenment Button. And I don't know where that is available, but I would also strongly recommend it as a terrific introduction.
No, that's just a small collection. I don't know whether this is, but what is this Power of Compassion will be good. Then I normally recommend one book, which is called Buddhism for Busy People, which is not by His Holiness, but he quotes His Holiness and other teachers. But he is somebody who has done very well in the material world. Then he came to the fold of Buddhist practice. So based both on his Buddhist understanding and his expertise in the mundane world, he is able to put this book so beautifully, so convincingly. So I would recommend that book for you. Buddhism for Busy People. He's a guy from Australia.
Thank you, Lakdor, for once again sharing of not only your wisdom, but who you are. I think we learned so much from that, and the way you help us understand really sort of complex ideas by drawing on everyday experience and wisdom. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you and all our Sangha and our fellow travelers and Dharma brothers and sisters again on next Friday, which is the 27th of November. And I have to warn you, Lakdor, that there has been a lot of sentiment that has been coming through to us, hoping that, after you finish this text, there'll be another one, and that you're going to be doing this for a very long time. So I'm just warning you that, that these appeals will be coming to you formally. So thank you, everybody, and it's wonderful to share this great experience with Lakdor, with all of you. Stay safe and stay blessed.